Hello, lovely people. I'm coming back in. I'm making one little addendum intro video after I've listened and edited a couple things. One, I'm sorry that the video quality sometimes sucks. That is my internet where I live. Two, um, something I didn't say enough for the whole thing here, like, why are you putting this here? Is transitioning is a lifelong process. So before you write this last poem, hold that in your heart. You might have watched some medical videos, and hormones or surgeries are a key part of how someone may or may not identify as trans, but it's not all about that. So just let that be there, and it just never stops because there aren't a lot of trans people my age. I'm in my 40s. There's so many fewer in their 50s or 60s, and I'm a trans elder. I'm just 46. You might be 23 and be like, you're old, but actually when you're 46, it's not. Think a lot about disability. Trans people face a lot of illness. It's not just about being trans, right? So you're going to meet us and interact with us in so many other ways. The last thing I want to say is before you watch this video, especially, and this is why I put this here, I'm talking about the work of Martin Baraboo, who is a salvage anthropologist. And I didn't explain what that meant because I thought you knew. And that was a silly thing to assume. But salvage anthropology is an especially vile form of anthropology, a deeply colonial practice of coming into communities that were supposedly dying or were considered from the past, like indigenous communities, First Nations communities, Native American communities, um, and writing down their history and practices through a particularly white lens, often male lens, and patriarchal expectations and norms written in to these ideals of how supposedly things work. And Martin Baraboo was one of those anthropologists for the state of Canada who definitely legitimized the claims of land, of the destruction of cultures and bodies and families and languages. And so watching Jordan Abel erase his words is quite amazing to me, and beautiful. And to take back and make your own words, um, to make sense of yourself. And that's what I'll do in my very final poem that you'll see. But the idea that when I say that, when if you are not watching the video, and this is why I added this little short intro here, is that if you're not watching the video, you don't see me say civilized with air quotes. And Martin Baraboo was a claim to Canadian, quote, civilization, unquote, a disgusting colonial practice. Um, many of you know that, but I want to be very, very clear. Because this is not only a decolonial series, this especially is a decolonial practice here. Um, Indigenous peoples, not only their land, but their bodies, their experiences are colonized, pilfered, stolen from. And not all trans people, but I would say a significant number of trans people are in deep solidarity. They may not be Indigenous, maybe white, black, brown, Asian, Latinx, but I find that trans people are often very empathetic and understanding to other people's experiences who are marginalized and violated in the world. And not just because they're trans, but because they love, right? To love people, to know what it's like to fight to exist. So I just want to be clear about that. That's why I especially included these other poets who are thinking about the right to exist in a place with citizenship, with parents, with friends, with cops, with policing. My gosh, what policing has done to trans people. Um, anyway, I'll leave it there. I don't want to keep you guys forever. And I adore you. I hope all is going well. Thank you for being here. If you made it this far. You're amazing. And even if you didn't make this far, I think you're amazing, but they don't know that because they're not here. Module 3, Part 3. What poem form are you going to write in today? Okay. Game on, sister, brother, themster. So back to Sleeping on the Wing. Our dear Kenneth gives us all these white poets. So, and to give you just a touch of someone you deeply recognize, well, where is Emily D? So we can guess, I can tell you off the top of my head, that Emily Dickinson poem is probably going to be 8 lines long. There's going to be some dashes. Do you know, where's your high school heart, my friends? I heard a fly buzz. We'll just be a traditionalist. I heard a fly buzz when I died. The stillness in the room was like the stillness in the air. Between the heaves of storm, the eyes around had wrung them dry, and breaths were gathering firm for that last onset, when the king be witness in the room. I willed my keepsakes, signed away what portion of me be assignable. And then it was there interposed a fly, with blue, uncertain, stumbling buzz, between the light and me, and then the windows failed, and then I could not see. Oh, I apologize. That one was 16 lines long. Some are 8, some are 12. Oh, right. Some are a whole page. But for the most part, we have no periods. Some words are capitalized in a very old English, old language sort of fashion, right? What is an Emily Dickinson kind of poem? So what does our dear Kenneth Koch say? For I heard a fly buzz, he says, write about something terribly significant to you. The end of the world, the beginning of the world, your death, your birth, your gender realization, the realization of somebody else's gender. And in the same poem, write about something that's very insignificant. The leaf dropping, the sound of a footstep, the telephone ringing, combing your hair. You need to go to the bathroom. Don't forget to pick up lettuce from the store. Don't say what your emotions are. Don't try to make an obvious connection between what is important and what isn't. Let them simply be happening at the same time. So that is a great idea of a poem, right? I have to start the starter. Time. Okay. I also want to go to WCW, the one and only William Carlos Williams. Now, of course, Emily Dickinson, who is a bit gay. You didn't know. Okay. Is that the word to use? We don't want to be anachronistic, et cetera, et cetera. But Emily Dickinson, what's wonderful about Emily Dickinson is there's a touch of the gender nonconformity, of the queerness, of not following the path of women, which is the reason I'm picking that. And now we're going to talk about William Carlos Williams. And Emily Dickinson lived in the early part of the 19th century. She's a woman writing poet. She's probably one of the most read poets in the world, especially in the English language. So go into William Carlos Williams. The reason I chose him, who's writing mostly in the early to mid 20th century, and really one of the beginnings of modern poetry, is he writes very tiny poems because he was a doctor writing them on his medical pad. How cool is that? So we have one of my favorite all-time poems, The Red Wheelbarrow. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rain water besides the white chickens. Let's do it again. The red wheelbarrow. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow glazed with rainwater beside the white chickens. Mic drop. So what did he do there? How did it get redder? It was a red wheelbarrow, and then the water, and then the white chicken. Just bursting with color. And the chickens got really white, although, you know, the chickens, very dank. We shan't lose, and I shall read it again on its own without Kenneth Koch in comparison, but this is just to say, I have eaten the plums that were in the icebox and which you were probably saving for breakfast. Forgive me. They were delicious. So sweet and so cold. Okay. Kenneth, lead us the way. I have some thoughts, but just to say, this is just to say that most of Marlon Carlos Williams poems are very, very short, and they're very, very vivid, right? William Carlos Williams, more than any other poet, brought the plain, ordinary things of the 20th century America and also its plain, everyday talk into poetry. People are moved by things that are officially beautiful, like roses in the moon. They are also moved by things that aren't usually that beautiful. Neon signs, old stairways, yards, rusty bicycles. William writes about ordinary things with excitement and attention. He looks at what happens to be around him the way a scholar might look at a great work of art. It is with every detail or a genius stroke. And so it is important to describe everything with perfect exactitude to just get it right. And to get everything right means, for one thing, getting just the right words. He usually writes things just as they are without added philosophy, scenery, or feelings. So if you would like to write a poem, he uses the poem Nantucket, which is also very short, which I will happily read to you. Nantucket. Flowers through the window, lavender and yellow, changed by white curtains, smell of cleanliness, sunshine of late afternoon. On the glass tray, a glass pitcher, the tumbler turned down, but which a key is lying, and the immaculate white bed. By the end, I can smell the ocean. Nantucket's close. It's just amazing. How did he do that? So you could write a poem about being on vacation. Write a poem about such a place. Be very simple and particular. Make it all just place, nothing extra, no memories, feelings, ideas. And sit with what it means to take your medical practice outside of your medical practice, right? You get to leave it behind. What do you not want to leave behind? The way you care for people, the way you love people. Maybe having better boundaries, maybe being more open, maybe being less. We're all on our journey. I'm with you. Be very simple and particular. Make it all just place, nothing extra. Close your eyes and imagine they're there. What do you see first? What afterward? Maybe just drop a trans person into that. How does that little shift work? You might just put down different details of the place just in order to remember them, one on each line. Describe them in the plainest way. Use short lines and leave spaces. It's probably better if you don't try to make a point and if you don't try to make it poetic. A good title might be the name of the town or the road where the place is. Amazing. Okay, so Leaving Behind Kenneth Cook. I'm going to talk to you about some other poets. I think we'll do The Place of Scraps next. Just to be clear again, you only need to pick one of these poets, but I want to give you ideas. You might want to do more than one. The Place of Scraps. Oh, this book's amazing. Jordan Abel is an utterly brilliant poet, and he is why did they not put it on the back of the book? Does it say it in his, they put a bio? He's a Niska'a writer from what is now called Vancouver. And he went to, he started doing research into Martin Barbeau, who, if you haven't come across, Martin Barbeau was a very famous Canadian anthropologist, Indigenous anthropologist. And Martin Barbeau actually wrote about the Niska'a Nation on what he called salvage anthropology, right? As the Niska'a became civilized, he wrote these last remnants of the true tribe. Yes, this is completely colonial garbage, but in his canonical 2-volume work, Totem Poles, Abel explores the complicated relationship between First Nations culture and ethnography. And what he did was he would take Martin Barbeau's well-loved prose, solid, and then he'd delete the other words. Or Sakawan and Sispaghat, the river, the country, the canyon, allied. Another one, he just did it again, same words. His new totems, his determination, his eagles and wolves. An account or summary was to be carved from Alaska. His, theirs, his, 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 his. In summary, his. I didn't read the original Martin Barbeau. I just didn't have the patience for it. But the idea of taking a piece of text and very delicately removing words again and again and again. Here's the hisses, right? In summary, is the comma over there. So just sit with a piece of text. Maybe you can take, where's our trans social scientist friends? Maybe you can take a chunk of trans medicine, just a paragraph that's like, or a chunk of JPG. This woman's a fucking genius. Jules Bulger, Gail Peterson, JGP, and sit with it and do that tender deletion. That's the poem I did for this. I fear for time, so I will just briefly tell you about Ocean Vuong. One way to think about, do I want to imitate another poet? I don't know if we have time to. Beautiful. Got the most beautiful bookmark. Leave things in your poetry books, friends. Leave things in your books. It's the most fun to find. Ocean Vuong's poems are all about a page or just over onto the next, right? You want to look at indentation, capitalization, punctuation. Are there feelings? Are there descriptions? Are there colors, right? You're starting to notice these patterns of what do we see? How do we see? How do we read a poet? And learning how to read a poet helps us, right? And finally, The Wound in a World. I'm gonna finish reading one Billy Ray Belcourt. I'm sorry, Ocean. I can't not. Because Canada. This is called Love. Should we do Love? Another. We'll do Towards the Theory of Decolonization. 1, forget everything you've learned about love. 2, investment is the social practice whereby one risks losing it all to be part of something that feels like release. Lose everything with me. 3, Indian time is a form of travel time, a poetics of lateness. 4, I never liked goodbyes, but some of us aren't to say, stay. 5, superstition is a mode of being in the world that keeps ghosts like me in the living room. 6, the afterlife is the after party, a choreography of mangled bodies. 7, I made a poem out of dirt and I ate it. Well, 6 million mic drops on that one, Billy Ray Belcourt. There's something happening here too. There's a use of things we do not say, right? The term Indian time, which is absolutely something that as a white person, I feel deeply trepidatious and violent about. BRC is saying, BRB is taking it. I love that it's BRB. I never thought about that. It's taking it back, right? It's witty, it's snappy, it's brief. He has a couple poems that are numbered. It's another way to do a poem. Make a list. He has a nice thin poem, right? Just a couple words a line. Anyway, I encourage you to think about the rigor in the topic. Billy Ray Belcourt is going to write about being Indigenous and queer, about how he's treated by white men, about how he's treated by society, by medical practitioners, what his heart feels like, what society feels like. Ocean Vuong is going to talk about being an immigrant. He's going to talk about his parents. I don't remember Billy Ray Belcourt's parents showing up in there. He's going to link to Greek poetry. He's going to talk about, he's going to number things. I love this. He uses like a bracket to divide them, but it's like part one over again. And On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, which is also the name of a poem he did. I'm looking for a short one. Really, really short one. Is there a short one? Thanksgiving 2006, and we're ending for Ocean on Ocean Vuong. Thanksgiving 2006. Brooklyn's too cold tonight, and all my friends are 3 years away. My mother said it could be anything I wanted, but I chose to live. On the stoop of an old brownstone, a cigarette flares, then fades. I walk to it. A razor sharp with silence, his jawline etched in smoke, the mouth where I re-enter this city. Stranger, palpable Go, here in my hand. Here's my hand, filled with blood thin as a widow's tears. I am ready. I am ready to be every animal you leave behind. Ocean Vong is one of those like mic drops on the last word term too, right? So Kenneth Koch has given you, I hope, he's given me over and over by reading those essays. Keep reading them. They're so tiny, they're so smart. There's so many ways of thinking and seeing about poetry, thinking and seeing the world, being storytellers, understanding our clients, our patients, ourselves. Okay. Be well, be kind. Here comes Simon.